You'll even see that because of the lower throughput, we get a lot of guests saying they've been in line for ages. In this time frame, the park rating stayed usually up in the 900s, but it didn't hit 999 as consistently as before. Moving on to year 6, I pushed the experiment further. I cut the number of mechanics to 3, and the number of handymen to 6. In cutting the handymen, I had to adjust their patrol areas to cover all pathways. During this year, I continued to adjust prices as best I could to obtain as high a yield as I could. I paid off my debt to simulate the stock buyback program that HillPath keeps approving of. Even so, the cash pile continued to grow until it reached 98,000. But now look at the park value. It dropped down to less than $170,000 in year 5, and back up to $176,000 by September of year 6. I also started minimum funding of research again, and made sure to research only thrill rides, roller coasters, and shops and stalls, since those are the things that can make the most money. Look at the number of guests, though. It stayed basically flat at 1,366. Now look at the park rating. It dropped to 935. Now what about the top 10 guest thoughts? Here they are. I Feel Sick is still at the top and guaranteed to remain there. Running out of cash became the number 2 thought with 35 people. But here's something telling. A big red flag for Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. The number 5 thought was, "This path is disgusting," with 19 guests saying so. And the number 6 thought was, "The vandalism here is really bad." This may be what affected my park rating the most and caused it to drop. I Want to Go Home also stayed in the top 10. But now we move to year 7, where we push the hill path strategy even further, possibly to the max, an extent they probably wouldn't dare try for real. I cut the number of handymen down to 4, and the number of mechanics to 2. I even canceled the handyman patrol areas and just let them roam the park where they pleased. In year 7, I did build a coaster, though, and I had to work to make sure people were able to get there. I also opened a new food stall along that path. Just like the others, I made sure the number of operating cars was at half of max capacity, and that the price was at least $3. I also launched an ad campaign for that particular ride to draw people in. By September of year 7, here's the spreadsheet we got. Look at that cash pile. It's huge. The next thing you'll see is the park value dipped, probably because the rides are aging. But now look at the company value. It's enormous, $307,000. Here's the part that really counts in the game Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. My park rating cratered to 635, and my guest count climbed to 1,485. What about the guest thoughts? I Feel Sick at the top as always, but now the number 2 thought is, "This path is disgusting," with 37 people thinking that. During year 7, the cash machine even became available, and I placed 2 of them in the park. They got hundreds of customers, and even so, the thought, "I'm running out of cash," still stayed in the top 10. People saying they've been in line for ages is still very prominent, and then there's the number 10 thought. "The litter here is really bad." 13 people thought that. Both thoughts about litter and disgusting paths had made their way into the top 10 guest thoughts. That no doubt killed my park rating. It was after March of year 7 that the rating cratered and did not recover. That's not all the stats I recorded from this experiment, though. There are a few more I wrote down. How did the rides fare during all this? The profit from individual rides per hour declined across the board. Depending on the ride, the downtime went from 9% to the highest at 33%. The reliability of the rides also declined from a range of 29 to 97% at the beginning to a range of 0 to 79% by the end. Though this is due not just to the skeleton crew of mechanics, but also the fact that I did not replace the rides and they were starting to break down a bit more often. One thing that is definitely due to the skeleton crew is that the number of rides down at any one time tended to go up from 1 to 2 or sometimes 3. There were even changes in the stalls. Satisfaction dropped even as profits went up. And when it came to kiosks and bathrooms, the changes were even more pronounced. The bathrooms, because I charged to use them, declined in popularity, and so did the information kiosks. Their popularity plummeted due to the prices, but somehow the satisfaction stayed relatively stable. I think this is where Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 also is not like reality. Moving on. The profits went way up at the top end, though. So, what can we learn from applying the Hill Path principles to Roller Coaster Tycoon 2? Well, in this game, that strategy can work to build up your cash reserves something fierce, but the further and further you push it, the closer your park in this game will get to collapse. You can push it for a year or two, probably not for more than 3 years if you keep making it more extreme with time. Every strategy will have its limits. This was a very interesting experiment. If you notice something I missed while conducting it, do let me know what it is so that I can run the experiment again to make the methods more authentic to real life. Is there a different management style you think I should try next? Let me know what it is and I'll look into it. Until next time, have a nice day, take care of yourselves, and God bless.